At the 500 millibar level, that is roughly 18,000 feet up, the level meteorologists use as a standard measuring stick for the mid-atmosphere. NWS forecasters in Fort Worth are already tracking 500 millibar heights of 590 decameters centered over East Texas. That number, 590, is significant. It represents an extremely deep, warm column of air pressing down across the south-central United States. Translated to surface terms, this upper-level warmth acts like a dome of high pressure, trapping heat near the ground and preventing the normal afternoon thunderstorm release valve from functioning. Forecasters at the Dallas-Fort Worth office call it plainly, a subtropical ridge building in across Texas and persisting through much of next week. 850 millibar temperatures, that is about 5,000 feet up, are forecast at 17 to 20 degrees Celsius each day. To put that in perspective, 850 millibar temperatures above 18 Celsius are a classic heat dome signature. We are right at that threshold and trending warmer.
Now let us talk about the Bermuda High, one of the most important and most misunderstood features in summer weather east of the Mississippi. The Bermuda High is a semi-permanent area of high pressure that sits over the western Atlantic Ocean, centered roughly near Bermuda during its peak phase. When it strengthens and extends its western flank inland over the southeastern United States, it does two things simultaneously. First, it acts as a heat pump, pulling hot, moist air northward from the tropics and the Gulf of Mexico. Second, it acts as a cap on thunderstorm development, suppressing the storms that would otherwise cool things down. Right now, the Bermuda High is locked in. NWS Atlantica noted it directly, and I'm quoting here, "High PWAT air is back, bringing the air you can wear to us all once again, with precipitable water values, that is the total column of moisture in the atmosphere, forecast well above 2 inches across Georgia. 2 inches of PWAT is a tropical-grade atmosphere. It means when storms do fire, they can produce extremely heavy rainfall. But it also means oppressive, sticky conditions around the clock." NWS Miami confirmed the same driver, describing south-southwesterly flow around the western periphery of the Bermuda High, advecting tropical moisture across the Gulf and directly into Florida.
Now for the cities most dominated by humidity rather than raw heat. Those are concentrated along the Gulf Coast and across the Deep South. Miami is the crown jewel of oppressive humidity in June. The NWS Miami discussion describes heat stress indices at a level 2 out of 4, with heat indices in the low hundreds this weekend, climbing toward 105 degrees by Sunday and Monday, the hottest days of the period. Miami's high temperatures on their own are not exceptional, upper 80s to lower 90s, but the combination of those temperatures with dew points that rarely drop below the mid-70s creates heat indices that are genuinely dangerous. Atlanta sits in a middle ground, highs in the mid to upper 80s, with the Bermuda High pumping tropical moisture northward, bringing what NWS Atlanta so eloquently called the air you can wear. PWATs climbing above 2 inches means every breath contains more water vapor than a typical June in Atlanta. Lows at night in Atlanta will only drop to the mid to upper 60s. There is no relief. That is a classic Gulf moisture surge.
Let us now go city by city and give you the actual numbers, both near-term and extended. Starting with the hottest market, Dallas-Fort Worth. Today, Saturday, high of 91. Sunday, high of 94. Monday through Friday next week, highs climbing to the mid to upper 90s with heat indices of 100 to 107 each afternoon. Dew points in the low to mid 70s. A flood watch is in effect through Sunday for parts of North Texas due to slow-moving thunderstorm complexes. Some areas could see 6 to 8 inches of rain before the ridge builds and dries everything out. Houston, highs in the upper 80s to low 90s this weekend, building toward the low 90s with heat indices of 100 to 108 by next weekend. NWS Houston flagging a tropical air mass with saturated profiles and precipitable water of 2.2 inches, among the highest values observed outside of actual tropical systems. Miami and South Florida, highs in the upper 80s to low 90s daily, with heat indices in the low to mid 100s. Sunday and Monday are the peak days, with heat indices approaching 105.
Moving northward along the eastern seaboard, New York City, and the Northeast. Today, Saturday, is the most active day with a cold front approaching from the northwest. NWS New York noted 850 millibar temperatures of positive 16 to positive 18 Celsius, a very warm air mass, pushing surface readings into the mid to upper 80s for the urban corridor of New York and northeastern New Jersey. Dew points are sitting in the 50s to lower 60s, which actually makes today more bearable than what is happening in the south because the humidity is relatively lower. The cold front will sweep through tonight with strong to severe thunderstorms, the primary threat being damaging downburst winds with DCAPE, that stands for downdraft CAPE, a measure of how explosive a thunderstorm's downdraft can be, values upward of 1,000 joules per kilogram. After the front clears, Sunday and Monday will be pleasant with highs around 80 to 84 and lower humidity. But, and this is the key, by mid to late next week, New York flips back into the heat and humidity regime as the Bermuda High shifts offshore and warm moist flow reestablishes. The NWS New York office explicitly warned that heat indices could approach 100 degrees Fahrenheit in some areas by next Friday.
So here is the bottom line for the week, the big synoptic picture in plain English. The entire eastern half of the United States is locked in a summer heat and humidity regime driven by three interconnected atmospheric features. First, the upper-level ridge building across the south and eventually the Midwest, the heat dome overhead. Second, the Bermuda High, parked over the Atlantic, pumping tropical Gulf moisture northward in a relentless conveyor belt. And third, the Gulf of Mexico itself, running 1 to 2 degrees above its already warm historical averages, churning out moisture-laden air that keeps dew points dangerously high across the deep south, the Gulf Coast, and increasingly the interior. The cities feeling the most raw heat this week are Dallas and Houston, where triple-digit heat indices are already locked in, and the subtropical ridge shows no sign of budging until at least the following week. The cities feeling the most suffocating humidity are Houston, Miami, and New Orleans, where dew points hovering in the mid to upper 70s make it feel like you are breathing warm water. Atlanta and the southeast will toggle between heavy rain events, driven by the Bermuda High briefly retreating, and renewed heat surges. New York and Chicago will get a brief front-induced break this weekend before the heat rebuilds. The pattern is classic midsummer, but supercharged, with above-normal Gulf SSTs and a persistent omega block ridge providing the energy source.
You know that this podcast has a supporters club? By becoming a supporter of the show, you can gain access to exclusive content and play an active role in helping the podcaster continue producing the content you love. See the link in the episode description for more details. Now, let's get back to the episode.
If you enjoyed this episode, please consider subscribing and sharing with other people.